This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health or lifestyle changes. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Her podcast, your go-to space for real talk, inspiration, and laughter as we navigate life as a woman. Let's dive in.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. I'm Tracey, your host for today. I'm a health empowerment coach here to help you eat better, move smarter, and reduce your chronic pain and fibromyalgia symptoms using what I consider to be the 4 pillars of health: nutrition, movement, mindset, and recovery.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Kime. I'm an empowerment and mindset wellness coach, guiding women to live authentically through self-discovery and self-healing. Hello.
Nice.
Hi, and I'm Cynthia Penner, a menopause coach and author of the Menopause Map book series. I guide women through the wonderful, sometimes wild world of menopause, and my focus is helping women navigate this season of life with confidence, knowledge, and a whole lot of laughter.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. Today, we are diving into a really important conversation that so many women will relate to: our relationship with alcohol and how it can impact our health, our family, career, energy, and our confidence. We're very thrilled to welcome Dr. Michele Perron. Did I say your name right? I meant to ask you that beforehand.
Yes, because
Perron?
you're
Okay.
Canadian.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure. I suck at French, but that's good. Okay. An alcohol addiction coach who specializes in helping women over 40 change their relationship with drinking. She's worked for almost nearly 2 decades helping women with this issue. She's a PhD in counseling studies, trained in positive psychology, and soon to be level 2 certified in nutrition and recovery coaching. Now, you just told us, is that what you just finished, right?
Yes, I just finished last Wednesday. Pretty rigorous. I'm glad to be done with school after 18 months. My children told me not to go back to school for a while, and I'm going to try.
Okay, good for you. Well, that was absolutely worth going to school for, so that's great. So Michele created and led one of the first moderation programs in a national telehealth agency, supporting hundreds of clients who wanted a healthier way to manage drinking without going completely without, which I was shocked to hear that you could do that. So this is a great conversation today. So now she continues to work through her private coaching practice, combining brain nutrition, behavioral tools, and the Sinclair method to help women take back control of their drinking and feel good in their own skin again. So now let's dive in with Michele and today's topic. So Michele, I'm so excited to have you here today. A lot of women, think they only have 2 options when it comes to drinking. Either you just keep going the way you're going, or you have to quit forever. So, and both can feel very scary, I'm sure. I'd love for you to start by sharing just a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you help women approach this all differently.
Well, thanks for having me today. I'm so excited to be here and talk about all these things that are so important for women.
Nice.
So I make it easy for women over 40 to control their drinking without quitting. And the way I got there was through my almost 2 decades of work in the addiction field. In the last 9 years, I realized that most of my clients, and I looked back, and for the last 20 years, most of my clients didn't want to have to quit. They were having to quit because there was no other solution available. And so as I started to explore that, while I was working in an agency, I got one group of 8 people in a moderation course. I'm like, what's that? So they said, oh, you're open-minded, you can do it. So, okay, I'll do it. So I began to work with people, and I don't remember client 0 who introduced me to the Sinclair method, but I did follow through and actually met Claudia Christian, who does the TED Talk, and worked with her for about 3 years in her company, C3 Foundation. But at the same time, I was working on telehealth. And that little group of 8 turned into a whole program of 10 groups with 10 specialized therapists that I trained to be able to use different languaging and different concepts to help people learn how to moderate. And often our program grew during the pandemic because often people would come because drinking was getting ahead of them. We called it COVID drinking, but they didn't want to quit. And that's all we had to offer under the umbrella of traditional agency work. And so since I had developed this program, they started telling at the end of a 3-month program, they would ask if you drink again. They thought yes. And rather than an aftercare program, they offered them my moderation program. So many people joined because they could turn left instead of right at the end of their, period of abstinence. And so I started to work with them and my team with the Sinclair method, and have since gone on from that job, and I'm full-time working on my own because I was certified in nutrition and addiction recovery counseling, which includes all the neurotransmitters in the brain and brain function. So that's what I specialize on today, is helping women over 40 who are struggling with all the other, in between sandwich generation stuff. And often it's such a common way to manage sleep, to try and manage stress, to try and manage all of the challenges and the work and retirements coming up. And there's so many things that it's just a really quick fix to drink. And so I decided that if I cast a wider net and offered people what they really wanted was to just control their drinking, just have a drink or two with friends or a glass of wine on their birthday, but not, I always say we drink to celebrate, not obliterate. So to teach people how to celebrate, and that social is more important than drinking, right? And the social drinking, the more important word is social than drinking. So just little sticky ideas like that with people. And I put together a program over that 9 years, and I've enhanced it with the amino acid therapy that I now do and the nutrition counseling. And so all these things I was not taught in counselor school, by the way. In fact, they were considered in the States outside of the scope of practice to talk about nutrition, exercise, sleep, anxiety, or depression, which come with all addictions. So I kind of jumped the boat and got into coaching because I'm able to deliver more effective services and more quickly. Nice. Did I answer everything?
Well, I just have a question that stuck out was why pick the group over 40? Like, because
yes.
why not before to get them into that? Like, why the 40?
Well, I'm over 40 myself. And what happened was we had a tracking system for all of our clients. And I would look at the rosters in 10 groups. And every single group was over 40. The average group age in 10 groups of 10 people was 47, sometimes 54, but it was always over 45 years old. Even though we had clients that would be less than 40, maybe as young as 38. I did have someone 35, but it was really just attracting those people who said, I don't want to quit forever. I'm a baby boomer. I'm a next gen, and I don't want to give it up forever. I like it. And they felt like sheepish to even say that out loud, because there's such a taboo about saying there are some benefits to drinking. And I'm not talking about resveratrol or any of that business. I'm talking about the sense of relaxation, the sense of coziness by a fireplace, or being less tense for your first date or a dinner somewhere like it. And it's been in our population for tens of thousands of years, and now we're throwing it out because that's the bad guy. I'm not in that. I think there's a lot of other things we could point to that affect our health more than the occasional glass of wine. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Lorraine?
Yes. Well, I think that's wonderful because I think you're very right. I think that there's this all or nothing mentality, and most people want to hold on to what they consider the benefits of drinking, which is the socializing, which is the relaxing, which is having this time. I know for myself, and I can't speak for all neurodivergent people, but I know that especially for me and my son, who is a little bit more socially awkward, being able to have one drink really helps us feel more relaxed and more comfortable in social situations. And I'm not saying it's intentional, like I've got to have a drink or I can't speak to anybody, but I do say that it tends to be something that you look back on and say, oh, I had a really good time and I was able to, manage socially better.
And
it
it's
helped.
socially,
Yes,
it's a bonding
yes,
element in our society, right? We feel that sense of belonging, which is so really important. That's the reason we socialize, is to feel like we belong to a group. And when you
right.
take away the normalcy of controlled drinking, right? Like, it's not okay to say that out loud. I'm a heretic in my field. It's when we take that out of the proposition and then we say, no, you can't go into anywhere where there's drinking or alcohol being served. Well, that cuts out an awful lot of social interaction. And number two is, if you don't, if you're all your friends drink, you need to change all your friends and go to meetings every day. And it becomes a whole, like, you have to give up what was your life that you built to change over to become something different than, and be convinced that it's not something you want. Like, it's okay if abstinence-based treatment and abstinence-based groups work for you. That's great. Hard fought white knuckling to stay there, not feel guilty if you smell a glass of wine and wish you had it, and not feel guilty if you have a sip, not feel guilty if you actually had maybe 2 or 3 more than you've had ever, or, like, there's a lot of guilt and shame involved in sobriety, and I take that completely out of moderation. We don't even use that language, and it makes
I
a big
love
difference.
that. Right. I love that because it is so much better to arm people with the ability to make choices in difficult situations than it is to cage them off and not allow them. I mean, then what happens when they end up in a situation? And it's not just about alcohol, these are in all kinds of situations. It is so much better that we teach resilience and power and choice and things like that. And so that when they are in those situations, that they feel more confident and more powerful to make the decisions that they do feel, and nobody, and they're not at the mercy of others or of a situation or of this drink that doesn't even have a consciousness or anything else. They want to be the ones in power. So I just love that about it. What I did want to do is I wanted to ask you about the Sinclair method. Is there something that you can tell us about what that is?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
why you found it so powerful?
Yeah. So there's a medication. It's goes by different names all over the world, but in the States here, it's called naltrexone, and I believe that's what it is in Canada as well. In Europe, it's nalmefene, I think, something like that. And so this medication is amazing. It was developed in 1963, the year I was born. Like, tells my age, right? And the fact that it stayed under wraps and not used for decades is amazing. It's because this medication is what is called a 100% antagonist, which means it goes into your brain, fills receptors, but it's non-addictive, and it has no side effects, and it actually reduces your desire to drink. And here's the neat thing, and the curious thing, is that it's in allopathy, doctors are told to prescribe it, take it every morning, once a day, and you won't drink anymore. And it's supposed to be for cravings. But Dr. David Sinclair went further into it in the 80s, and he discovered that it really wasn't relevant for clinically important cravings. In other words, if you took it in the morning, it really wasn't working at your witching hour at 4. Most people didn't start drinking in the morning. Most people would start drinking in the evening after work. They were happy hour drinkers. They were after dinner drinkers, late night drinkers, and then their volume would creep up, or they were weekend warriors. And so it wasn't like, you can take it every day and it can work for some people. It's questionable as to if it's placebo or not, but it can. It's not a bad thing to do it every day. However, the Sinclair method approaches it differently. And that is, you take the same pill an hour to an hour and a half before you drink as normal. Just drink as usual. And what it does is, as it fills the receptors, I like to joke and call it, think of it as a condom for the brain. You don't want unprotected drinking, right? Is it fills the receptor, so you don't get that especially good response. You don't get that super buzz. You get a pleasant sensation. Clients tell me every day that they still enjoy having a glass of wine or two, but they lose interest. And isn't that just great? Because you can be drinking high volume, and as you slowly introduce the medication, your volume goes down naturally, and then you have days off, and then you have several days off, and then you're able to take dry January, or sober September, or sober October, whichever you want to do. You're able to do that without white knuckling, because human nature is, if we're denied something, we're going to want it. Don't have that cookie. Don't have
touch
that
hot.
candy.
Yeah.
Don't. We want it more, right? And
Right.
that's how alcohol is. If we're told, no, you can't have that. That's all I'm going to think about all day long. So that's all I want to
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So plus it's physiologically addicting as well, and psychologically very rewarding. So there are a lot of things. Personally, I think while alcohol may not have a consciousness after almost 2 decades, it's alive because it does. Orange juice and apple juice and water and 7-Up just don't do what alcohol does. It's got a special extra energy that comes with it, let's say. So
Yeah.
helping people understand that is what I do. Yeah.
So does that mean that it's a temporary, it's not something that stays or sticks or like trains your brain, so to speak? It is a temporary solution for when you use it, but it does train your desires and your habitualness over time by decreasing the, having a condom for the brain, decreasing that craving.
Desire,
Is
right?
that what
Yeah.
It actually
hearing?
changes the brain. It
Oh,
changes
it
the brain
does.
at a physiological level so that you no longer get the release of the endorphins, the consequential GABA, or the dopamine effect that you would get when you would be drinking without it. If you have that especially good response, you're having more of a response than maybe someone who doesn't struggle with over drinking. And so that quietens that and takes it down so that over time, clients, if they choose to, can come to what we call pharmacological extinction. So and it extinguishes the desire to drink. It also is a component of another medication called Contrave for eating disorders. And Contrave is half Wellbutrin and half naltrexone, and that also changes cravings for food. So it's a very useful, non-addictive drug, and it works really well. And so what I teach, because the pill being physiologically active is not magical. So it would account for maybe 35% of your success. And if you've already got some good behavioral skills and some good nutrition, you're going to be well over 50% and you're going to win this war. But if you're just going to take the pill and have a let her rip plan, then it's going to be hit or miss in its effectiveness. So I help people improve the effectiveness of that method of reducing your drinking. And not all of my clients require the medication though, because I like using natural things like I do for myself. And so improving the brain neurotransmitters for me is primary. It's eating to win, that makes all the difference. And of course, our number one tool is protein. So we start there. Let's start with protein and go from there. And then the second thing I do is amino acid therapy, which pinpoints which neurotransmitters you are depleted in from stress, from drinking, from life, from menopause, from PMS, from all the things we go through as women. I can pinpoint which neurotransmitters are low using just a symptom checklist. And then I can pinpoint which amino acids, which would be absorbed 99%, because they're very effective and they can make a change within 20 minutes of someone taking them, believe it or not, which I never learned in school, right?
No.
And so once we can target your neurotransmitters, we can target the behaviors you need to do. And if necessary, we can target the medication. So it's called targeted naltrexone, which is the Sinclair method. I use all the best targeted techniques that I know. And together I see people change, which I would never say this before when I was strictly working in abstinence-based therapy. But I see people change within the space of 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's both men and women, correct?
Both men and women, yep, over 40. And often I will also, because it's unheard of and a lot of people don't think it's legitimate, right? Because it's such a new part of recovery and mostly advocated by groups that are not involved in traditional therapeutic environments. So you have, for instance, TSM meetups.com is a free group that covers that. And another one, Thrive Alcohol Recovery. They're another wonderful YouTube channel that you can watch for more information, as well as Claudia Christian's TED Talk, How I Stopped Drinking, because she used that method, big advocate for it. And so with this being so new, it's really not being taught or trained yet that I know of. I used to teach counselors in counseling in college, in their college courses. And that was not being taught then. And I didn't really know about it then either. And so, nor is nutrition taught. So if I were to go back and teach, I'd teach a whole lot of different things that are more effective. Yeah. So,
Wow, Michelle, I really appreciate how you approach this from the physical and the emotional, right? Because you're feeding the brain as well as supporting new habits.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get swayed by life when your feet are not firmly on the rock
yes.
and instead in the sand, right? So you must know what you want, when you want it, why you want it, like the clear direction. So from your experience, how important is nutrition? Because you just stated amino acids and protein. So for example, can things like protein actually shift cravings and help women feel more balanced? And the second question, how do you get people in your program? Like I'm thinking about up here in Canada, like how do they even get the help they need if what you're saying they're not teaching this in addiction recovery? Like how does someone find that balance and that help?
Yeah. Well, the way that I find people is I'm listed on directories currently, and I'm listed, and I do workshops and lectures and talks at different conferences to try to get the word out. I also have a mentor who has been working on this for 40 years to try and get it to a place where people will see and hear it and understand it. So to find out that amino acid therapy has been around for 220 years and I never heard about it, it's kind of like shocking because it's so incredibly effective for both mental health issues and for addiction issues. So it's super important. And so most people will find it if they hear about the Sinclair method, they'll go online and start Googling. And so I can be found online with from my website as well as from LinkedIn. And I know you're going to put those in the show notes, but it's dr.drmichelleperron.com. And then my LinkedIn is Michele D. Perron, PhD. There are 57 Michele Perrons on LinkedIn, I recently found out.
Wow.
And and those are 1L French ones like me.
Wow.
So I have my middle initial and PhD behind. So that's the one I am. Did I answer all your questions, Cynthia? I can't remember.
Well, the finding them, because I'm just thinking, like I'm 55, so I have children that are late 20s, early 30s, and I know friends that have children that are addicted, right? Now, when we're talking about alcohol, but I think there is a relationship with drug addiction also, right? Like
Yes.
I'm guessing. So like for me personally, I was raised by a single mom and she used alcohol to help her cope with being a single mom, with trying to pay the bills, trying to deal with puberty for 3 girls back to back to back to back, right? And so and unfortunately, I mean, my mom recently passed, but I can see now as an adult looking back how much she struggled. But at the time, watching her down beer after beer was hard. And so when I went through my own divorce, I didn't touch it. Like I refused to, because there was that stigma in my mind that if I have one, I wouldn't stop. I would become my mom, right? But when my mom passed, I found myself, I was having a glass of wine every night, but it was like I sat there and I just grieved. And then it was this emotional, I don't even know what the right word would be that doesn't.
Catharsis, kind of a processing.
Yeah.
It allowed the grief to move through.
It did.
Rather
And
than get stuck.
Yep. And so it was a different mindset, but it did like, so, when you're going through the therapy of what you're saying, addiction it's all or nothing. And so they're telling them nothing, nothing, nothing. But then like I've watched one of my sons and a lot of my friends' sons struggle with addiction. And the moment like they struggle, they go absent, they go through therapy, they go through counseling, then they have that one. And it's like, instead of going, okay, but in their mind, it's like one and done. And now they're back into it full force, right?
Yes.
Instead of saying, okay, one, like, okay, it was okay. Just go on with your life. It is okay to have one. It is okay.
Yeah.
So you're just even hearing that it's been around, like even that medication or amino acid therapy or Sinclair method for decades. And yet, that whole society of addictions, they're all like none.
And that puts so much pressure on everyone. and then it actually cycles up the blame and shame game, right?
Mhm.
And
Does.
blame and shame have no place in human dignity because we're all fallible. And if we're going to start carrying that and having everyone shame us and blame us and make us feel like failures, that does exactly the opposite in counseling. I've seen it with colleagues. I've seen it in my early work. I was never one to get angry with clients if they relapse. Like it was like, no, that what am I missing? I always thought. But many of my colleagues would actually berate their clients. Why did you do this? And they'd get into an argument. And I'm like, you're not having Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas with them. Anything you say is not going to carry weight. You're not family.
Right.
So you need to guide and not demand, because these are people are coming to you of free will or sometimes court ordered. But like the weight of a counselor is only considered as much as respect is received, right? If your clients don't feel respected, they don't care what you say. So that was primary in my work and always has been. And if someone is not returning to wellness, I don't find them to be the problem. I've thought, what am I missing? What am I not understanding? Where do I need to ask? Where do I need to go? And what do I need to figure out about this client? So I'm neurodivergent too. I have ADHD. So each client for me became almost a Rubik's Cube of sorts, which always held my interest and fascination. So every new person is a new puzzle and a new challenge to help get them to wellness and joy and feeling relaxed in their own skin, and they don't have to, augment and take anything to feel good. And they can go outside with bare feet and ground, and that can start someone feeling better right away, right? And we have the big lake here, and I go out there frequently and exfoliate my feet on the sand.
Nice.
Cold, but it's nice. So it's just helping that. And the way that I've taught all my team and the way that I continue to work is we don't use relapse. We talk about an over drinking episode. So what happened? What would you do differently? We don't count the number of days we've been sober. We count how many drinks we have every week. Okay, what's your plan? I always ask my clients, what's your plan for the week? You had a birthday, a barbecue, do you have a wedding? What's going on? And if you have something more challenging, more triggering for you, we walk through and go, okay, what's going to happen at what time of day? What's that going to look like? And then I go all the way through the visualization to the next morning after the wedding. I had a client go through a 3-day wedding at a vineyard in California, and he was a heavy drinker with his son and his friends, and he was worried about that, and his wife was pretty upset. So he joined me for 2 months. And he learned about the Sinclair method. He learned about the behavioral skills and the planning. I had him actually get the itinerary. We walked through it together, visualizing each day. And with also little prompters like your wife's dress is hanging behind you in the room. And I say, is that her dress? Yes. So don't forget to compliment her, how beautiful she looks. Look in her eyes and be romantic with her and remember your way. Like be the gentleman with her. That will be your focus. And he came back from that weekend. We prepared for that for 5 weeks, I think. And he came back from that wedding. He said he did better than the plan. He drank very little. He made the right toast and didn't make a fool of himself. He didn't break anything or do anything dumb. His wife was really happy. She felt so cherished and so loved. And he's like, I get this. I can do this. And so he was with me for 2 months, and he just embraced the whole process and did really well.
Wow.
That's one of many.
Such a good story. I just love
Yeah,
that.
isn't that nice?
Yeah, it is very much exactly the same. Like you say, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, right? That can be food, because we tell it on the show constantly, don't beat yourself up if you have a day, or if you have a cheat. I don't like that word, but you fall off of your diet plan or whatever. It's okay. It's not an all or nothing life.
Yes.
Right?
And that's where the amino acid therapy comes in so well, because prior, regulating one's drinking, even just with the Sinclair method and not the amino acids, you don't feel well faster. You don't sleep faster. You don't have better digestion faster if you're not using the amino acids and probiotics and cofactors that we call them. So even if so people are less likely to slip, less likely to not be self-aware, because their brains are working better, because they have the precursors to the vital neurotransmitters that we need to think clearly. Because when your brain thinks clearly, you can think clearly. but it needs to have
Yes.
all those building blocks, which are often depleted, not only from addiction of any kind, but food addiction, from stress, from excessive exercise, from worry, from depression, losing someone, grieving. You can deplete your neurotransmitters that way. And we can try to build them back up with protein. And that takes longer because we really don't absorb efficiently the proteins that we're eating. For instance, if you eat beef, a nice steak, like, in the keto world, which I've lived in for quite some time, we're only absorbing about 48% of the steak. We're not absorbing 99%. Whereas acids are concentrated food, they're protein peptides, and you absorb them 99%. So what's beautiful about the work that I have been doing for the last year is not only can I deplete their desire through naltrexone, but I can improve their brain function through the amino acids so that it becomes easier. And what I've seen from beginning to end takes far less time. It's not a long 8-month, 10-month thing. It's, I like to stay with people long enough so they get the behavioral skills, but they see results really quickly, sometimes within the first week, sometimes within the first hour. They can start to feel better with amino acids, which I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked to find that out. And I wanted to write a letter to my college and say, can I have my money back? Because you never taught me anything that actually works. So talk therapy will never get us as far as.
When you're talking about the amino acids and stuff and the fixing the brain or helping the brain, is that brain like your memory, or is it like you're talking about the neurotransmitter? I'm thinking about the conversation we had about dementia not too long ago. And would those amino acids help with something if someone's struggling, if they were to take these, it would help with that as well?
They do help because there are specific amino acids for each neurotransmitter. So if you're having trouble sleeping, for instance, there are 2 different ones. You can take daytime one and you can take, or an evening one. And there are no side effects. The worst side effects that I know of are if you're not working with someone knowledgeable about it, if you're on an SSRI, there are certain amino acids that you shouldn't take together. Or if you choose to wean off, you must wean up on the amino acid. So, and there are some contraindications for some like some cancers and so forth. But I'm trained for that, so I look for any problems that might arise. Other than that, the only thing I've ever heard of is maybe a little bit of a stomach ache because it's acidic. And to reverse that, you take a gram of vitamin C.
Yeah. Nice. Wow.
Honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so for that to be like the worst thing, that's pretty safe, right? And I work within a nutritional margin, not a clinical margin. So you can even go up from where I am accustomed to recommending. So it's really amazing stuff. So that the other side, I felt like it was a lopsided balance, but now that I have the side that makes your brain work better, you're able to grasp, you're able to have more willpower in terms of not drinking, but being more mindful and paying more attention to the people around you, picking up details at work. I like to say with executives, I want to make you the sharpest knife in the drawer so that you're going to be the one that gets the promotions, and because you're thinking with all your cylinders, and rather than brain fog or irritability or feeling, fatigued all day, every day, or coming home and just getting in your sweatpants and eating ice cream instead of dinner, or
have a drink.
Were you in my house last night?
He was watching you.
Or having younger children. I've had clients who were drinking 2 or 3 bottles of wine when they had young children in the household, and by 7 o'clock they were in bed, passed out. So they weren't raising their children.
Wow.
Watching that turn around within the space of a few months, where you're going to buy prom dresses and you start another business and you buy a new home. I've seen like phenomenal changes with people.
Wow.
Really wonderful things happen. And that's the fun of it. The benefit of the work that we do is seeing people improve. That's almost better than getting paid, but I need both.
Yeah.
Right. I love the whole behavioral therapy that you're doing and the positive psychology. So there is a lot of pressure. We talked about that, the social expectations, and you know, it could be really detrimental to someone to quit completely or to be thrust into a situation, you know, where they feel pressure, like that gentleman who knew that this wedding was coming up and there was so many expectations of him and everything. So can you give us a little bit more of what you do with the behavior therapy and the positive, how you introduce that and how you introduce it to your clients? I mean, they're obviously coming on and you have this whole program. It's behavior, it's psychology, it might be the Sinclair method. You have all of these things going on. So how do you get them started especially when it comes to that?
Yeah. So initially, when someone decides to work with me, I do send a welcome email that has lots of information in it. And to get started with the amino acid therapy, I think that's primary. They do that. But then as I engage with them, and I do on a weekly basis to get started, and that tapers to every other week, and then it tapers to once a month. And some people still like to see me years later, every 3 months, just to check in and make sure they're still on track, or just to catch up, because I really end up liking all my clients quite a bit. And so the very first thing, though, in terms of behavior, is we get rid of guilt and shame, because it serves no purpose. Like kicking yourself and listening to anyone else doing so isn't helpful in the least. So if they say, oh, I had my birthday and I drank way more than I thought, I say, how were you doing last year at your birthday? And they pause for a minute without fail. They pause for a minute and they say, oh my God, last year I blacked out by this time and I don't even remember. And so this year was better, right? And they go, yeah, it was way better, because they're still in the mindset of being their own worst critic, right? Even though they have massive improvement, they're not recognizing and giving credit. So I'm very quick to do that. That's one behavior. I'm not going to be down on myself if I make that mistake. And number two is then they have 3 cardinal rules, which are behavioral rules that the first 2 I insist on, but track, plan, and visualize. Those are the most powerful behavioral tools. So it's standard for everyone in every program, especially TSM, to track drinking every week, so you can see your progress in tangible ways. That's very helpful. It's like keeping track of your weight if you're losing weight, or writing down how much you lifted at the gym today because you want to see how strong you're getting, kind of thing. Same thing. We track drinking and see so we track drinking. But the most important part is to plan drinking. And that is probably the single biggest feedback that I get from all of my clients, is the first thing they learn to think about their drinking in advance and plan it. Where am I going to drink, with whom, how many, and for how long? And where do I want to drink this week? Rather than defaulting, I'm coming home, I'm tired, I'm just going to, eat ice cream and drink 2 bottles of wine. Let's think about this for a minute. I teach them what is a good reason to drink and what's not a good reason. And it's universal. Feeling like drinking is not a reason to drink. We're always going to feel like it's going to be a yes when we struggle. It's never going to be a no. So it has to be another reason. It has to be a legitimate reason. Like we're going out to be with other people. It's our anniversary. We're going to make homemade pizza on our new pizza oven at home, or we're going to have a barbecue with the family, or it's got to be linked to a social occasion. Or it's Wednesday, and we always like to have a martini on Wednesday, and that's our tradition after work. Okay, but not every day, right? So we start teaching them what is a healthier idea of alcohol, and what I call set and setting, or appropriately drinking. Is it appropriate to drink this much in this set and setting? If you're at a conference, if your boss pulls you aside and says you're drinking too much, probably not appropriate amount of drinking. So I have them observe what other people are doing. Go to a wedding and don't drink anything and see what other people are doing. And then all of a sudden they have an aha moment. Wow, everyone's not drinking 12 beers. No, they're not, because they couldn't walk home, or they'd have to get an Uber, right? So track, plan, and visualize. So when we plan, we look at what's up ahead for the week. Where do I want to drink, and how much am I going to drink all week? We count by the week in terms of planning. How many did you have last week, and how many are you going to have this week? Because daily drinking if you count your daily, if you just say, well, I'm only having 2 or 3 a day, or I had 4 on Thursday and Friday, like I'm not drinking that much. When I add it up for the week, that's 35 to 40 drinks a week, if you're just looking at it on a daily. So if we look at it at a bigger chunk of time, it becomes 35 drinks. That's 7 bottles of wine. What am I thinking? And then stack. And then I have them visualize stacking, the cases of wine up. And if they're looking at a tower of wine, that's a lot for your your poor liver to,
Yeah.
deal with. So visualization is super helpful. And then bigger things like weddings, cruises. I have a few clients on a cruise right now. I had clients go to Italy, if Spain, all the places where wine, Germany, you're gonna drink Moselle. I mean, it's all these challenges that when we go on vacation or we rent a house and families all coming and it's perpetual vacation for a month, it's walking through that with visualization so that you can see a different thing. And once the brain sees a different outcome, it's far more likely to follow through. If it's good enough for Olympic athletes to visualize their success, then it's good enough to use for drinking as well, because the brain will do as it's told if you believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I use that to our advantage. And the eating, it's primary. You have to eat 20 to 30 grams of protein every 3 to 4 hours, especially in early recovery, because if you don't, there is a tandem problem that rides underneath it, and that's buzzword insulin resistance, right? So you get what's called reactive hypoglycemia. And reactive hypoglycemia gives that hangry, and it makes it, if you don't eat, you don't keep your blood sugar stable, and you're much more likely to drink in excess. And also we're affected by our periods and going through menopause. And if we have PMS, you also get reactive hypoglycemia. So we can increase certain amino acids during PMS and during times when you're feeling more emotional or more vulnerable. And that will help even out your brain chemicals and making sure you're eating enough to even out your blood sugar. And that will go a really long way if you do nothing else to help improve and reduce your drinking.
So interesting.
Yeah.
You keep mentioning amino acids, and I don't know if we've talked. Is it something people can buy on over the counter, or is this a prescription?
Yeah, there are some good reputable brands at Amazon, and I usually have little pictures. So when I send the initial recommendation emails, I actually put a link to the exact product at Amazon that I'm referring to, so that they don't have to go looking. I have to figure out how to do an Amazon store. I'm not quite there yet, but that's my next thing. But yeah, so they're easy to get.
Specific, right? Like,
you
can't just go on Amazon and buy any amino acids. Like you were saying earlier,
right?
It's a specific neurotransmitter that you're dealing with. So how does someone who doesn't have you live where they are figure out which ones to take?
Well, being a coach, I'm not bound by country. I've worked with people all the way from Russia to Japan to all over Canada, Qatar, England. I've had people in Brazil. I've had people all over the world. So I like coaching because I can have a farther reach for whoever happens to come across my information. However, there is a book called The Mood Cure by Julia Ross. And I just saw Julia Ross 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
She was at a lecture that I did, and I was quoting her. So that was fun. But she wrote this book, The Mood Cure. And in The Mood Cure, it tells you everything you need to know. It's also good to solicit somebody who's been certified in amino acid therapy, but you can do it yourself if you use her book. And I have free consultations if you have any questions, need any guidance. I also do that with people if they're literate and they're doing, what they think is best for them. So it's helpful though if you're on medications, if you have any health problems, if you've had prior issues, that you consult somebody who has experience with this. That would be even a functional medical doctor will also know that. Usually they are and there are functional psychiatrists that use amino acids as well. So it's burgeoning, it's beginning, and I tend to be an early adapter to these things. But,
nice.
If you want to do this and learn more about it, The Mood Cure is your best book. She also wrote a brand new one called The Craving Cure, which is wonderful. And I must also mention my mentor, Christina Vasilek, wrote a book called Eat, and it's specifically for amino acids and addiction. And it's a lovely book. It's got like fun pictures in it, and it's easy read if you want more information there. And I don't need to write a book because they've written such good ones.
Oh, nice. Is there any on the other side of that? So you take the wrong amino acid, or you take too much because you're not working with someone like you. What are some of the side effects that would happen?
Yeah, stomach upset, basically.
Is that okay? That's
unless you're taking medication that's been prescribed by your doctor, there isn't a whole lot to worry about, except whether sometimes if you take cofactors, like for instance, if you take magnesium citrate and you take too much of it, you're going to have loose stools, right? So you will notice that sort of thing. But what you're looking for with amino acids, when there's something called trialing amino acids. So if you're on your own or working with me, for instance, what we would do is determine through the test that's in the book, you can determine which one you're lower in. And it says a range to take of the amino acids, and you shouldn't exceed the range that's in there. But the way you know what your dose is you open up the pill and put it under your tongue, the powder, and you let it dissolve in there for a minute or two. You can swish around with water, and so that you can absorb a lot of it with the mucous membrane because it's so close to your brain, right? And then you wait for about 20 minutes and see if you feel any different. If you don't, you do it again. And you can do it up to 4 times for most of the amino acids to see when you start having I feel so much better. I feel more relaxed, or I feel like I have energy. I'm not sleeping anymore. Like then you know that's the right amount for you.
Does it have a
that
flavor?
Simple.
Like when you put it on your, does it have a flavor? Like, is it going to be
chalk? You can take, for instance, L-glutamine is a very good amino acid. It helps you soothe your gut microbiome, but it also keeps your blood sugar levels even, right? And the recommended dose for glutamine is typically 1 gram 3 times a day. You can do 2 grams 2 times a day, whatever. But usually that just basic thing will help keep your blood level even, and it also helps your gut work better as well. So because it feeds the right bacteria, the right nutrients. Because serotonin, for instance, is your feel good chemical. It calms you down and you feel good. And 90% of it is made in the gut. 90% of it's made in the gut. And a lot of people don't know that. They think neurotransmitters are made in the brain, but 90% of serotonin comes from the gut. So feeding your gut helps your brain work better. So if you're eating junk food, processed foods, you're fasting too long, like especially in early recovery, fasting does nothing to help you. You have to get your brain neurotransmitters organized. You have to have a good diet. And then once you're through the critical period, which might be the first month or two, then you might think about fasting. But we don't want that to trigger, a binge event, because that's not good.
Wow. Wow, that's just
a lot.
Yeah, who
Very
knew?
interesting.
So
interesting.
Amino acids would be play such an important role in addiction and alcohol and everything.
But it's not well known, and I would have to say I think it's kind of suppressed. It's not a pharmaceutical.
Right.
There you said it.
But everything has its place, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we try to do. I just want to see my clients have as much relief as possible in the shortest amount of time. Because if I can do that, then they're much more likely to continue doing what they've learned. And then they can tell 2 friends, and they can tell 2 friends, and they can tell 2 friends. And, and wine manufacturers don't have to stop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's a Friday night, or you want to have a drink after work, right? I just love that people can still do that. You don't have to do that all or not. I just love that.
Yeah. I also incorporate the use of NAs. I'm really big on NA beer. I think it tastes really good. I prefer it actually personally. But there are low Secco is a new product. It's sugar-free Prosecco. A lot of women like Prosecco. So it's a low one. So that's a new product. And the manufacturers are listening to the general trends of moving away from drinking by coming up with new products. The world of mocktails is really full. So rather than all or nothing, many of my clients think, well, if I can't have an alcoholic drink, I'll sit over here in the corner with ice water. I'm like, oh, for you. Now there's nothing else to drink in the world except ice water. So I'm very encouraging to try mocktails, to try ginger beer, to try kombucha, to try those things that are more interesting. You can still drink them in a wine glass. There's no wine glass police. And it's that behavioral thing of sipping slowly something interesting in a wine glass that can frequently scratch the itch, if you will, without having to finish a whole bottle of wine. It's amazing. It's amazing when you introduce the and, not the or possibility, this or that. It's this and that. Ooh, I have more choices.
That. I like that.
I wanted to pull in for the people that are listening and some of us who may not recognize a problem within themselves, but they do in a loved one or someone close to them or children of someone close to them or something. Is there advice or suggestions that you have to give them for someone else? I mean, how do they approach this, or how do they get someone in touch with your methods, or how do they help someone if they won't go to someone like you? Is there things that they can do, small things that they can do to help?
I think the major thing is to not be punitive and judgmental and directive. You got to quit drinking because you're this, that, or the other thing. That creates massive divide, right? That, and also anyone being told what to do or being shunned or shamed or guilted, right, they're going to go do their own thing anyway. Thank you very much. So the worst thing we can do is tell somebody what to do. What we can do is approach our loved ones, friends, or family saying, guess what? I heard that there's a new way to recover. Like, you don't have to quit drinking if you don't want to. You don't have to quit using CBD if you don't want to. You can actually moderate, and there's this whole thing. And how about if you go watch One Little Pill by Claudia Christian? She talks about alcoholism in there and naltrexone. Very useful. It's a good documentary. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime. Really good to go watch. And then I'm on YouTube, but I think there are 8 different interviews that I've done this will be number 9 on YouTube. So just Googling my name into YouTube, there's lots of information there. And also Thrive Alcohol Recovery is another great place to go. She has hundreds of videos. Katie Lane, she's a lovely young woman who has gone through this herself, and she's very professional. She does interviews. She's very knowledgeable. I've met her on more than one occasion. She's lovely. And I don't have to make videos because she makes really good videos. So I send people to her videos, and they have a little program there. I'm a coach for that company as well. But so that's what I do. I'd be enthusiastic saying, guess what? You don't have to struggle like this anymore, and you don't even have to quit. You can actually get help, and you can still have a drink here. You can still have a drink. And quitting, we have what moderation really looks like. It's not arbitrary. There are real numbers associated with that. And simply put, single digits, no more than single digits in a week, being variable week to week. That's the gold brass ring you're looking for. Now, Christmas time, you're going to drink more. We know there's parties to go to. That's fine. But in January, we're going to cut back so that we can actually let our liver rest up a little bit and get back to our regular scheduled programming, so to speak. So I would be enthusiastic, loving, and excited that there's another alternative solution to this problem. That it's not, I like to say, it's not your grandmother's recovery. We don't have to, go in the hospital and stay away from our families for 30 days and feel terrible like losers, because alcohol is a substance that is targeted to be enjoyable, but in excess amounts, it brings with it negativity. And it's not the fault of the person that alcohol does this. Alcohol does this. That's what it's done since the beginning of time. Alcohol has that effect on humans, and it will always have that effect on humans. So I always say, if we go to the dance and we choose to dance with the devil because he's tall, dark, and handsome, we're not going to stay all night with him. You've got to know what you're dancing with. And if, you also don't play with gasoline, because we know what it is, right? So that's the key there. You can have your cake and eat it too, but you must know the safety rules. It's like voting rules or anything else, right? There are certain things you need to do when you're dealing with something that could be dangerous. And that's all it is. And then you can enjoy it. You don't have to worry about it, right? It's easier. It's easier than it appears to be.
Right. This just changes that whole thought on drinking, right? And that I just love this. So glad you're on
and my
here.
clients love it too. They love it. Now some reach extinction and they decide not to drink, but it's not a struggle if they get there. If they get to that point in their career of drinking, they just say, no, I can take it or leave it. Then it's not this big struggle, failure, horrible, crash the car, feel terrible. It's not this mayhem and chaos. It's a quiet fading. And their marriages, oh, by the way, my clients don't get divorced. I do lots of couples counseling so that everybody's communicating effectively. And that goes a long way to keeping people married and keeping them together. And then it becomes a more acceptable thing. Even the family system will begin to say, oh, dad's okay. We don't have to worry about him all the time anymore. It looks like this is working, and helping them to not judge the future from the past, because those are two different timelines.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So it's really great. I love my job. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How could you not? Right.
Right.
Michelle, I had a question that I wanted to ask you in here when we were preparing the show notes, and it was based around as a coach myself, it's always about what I teach is one step in a different direction. Like one small step even one small step in a different direction has change, right? And so my question was going to be like, how do you help women take that very first step without feeling like they have to get it perfect right away? But your method, you literally have, that's the whole thing that you just talked about this whole interview already is that is what you're doing, one small step. Like you're not talking about extinction. You're not talking about huge things. You're talking about simple, like keep it simple. You don't have to take it all out, but you have to plan. Like what you were saying, I've been writing notes, by the way. So you said track, plan, and visualize. Those are small steps. So my question became obsolete because you already are not, this not overwhelming. Everything you have said for me listening was amazing, having been raised in a house with a mom who drank too much and having to make those choices myself, but then also having adult children and my friends having adult children who struggle with addictions. And like Tracey was saying, it's not just alcohol. Like for me, there's also the drug addiction with the kids, but it's also food addictions, right? This works for all of them. Like everything in moderation. And you have those successes, like you're saying, like the children are looking at their parents and saying, Daddy doesn't have to leave anymore, right?
Yes.
Because
you don't have to fear them, right?
that's right. Everything has changed. Like your method is one small step in a different direction.
Yeah.
And
each day is incremental. Each day that you succeed, because it's bite-sized, it's like eating an elephant, right? How do you eat it? One bite at a time. So it's not this overwhelming, I got to swallow this big decision that I really am unsure of for the rest of my life until I die. I can never have a glass of champagne at my daughter's wedding. It's too much. Humans don't live 6 years, 10 years, 30 years in advance. We live today. So let's do something we can do today. And as we go, we learn and we self-correct. I've seen it so many times and clients tend to be harder on themselves than I ever am, for sure. And I have to back them off of being judgmental about themselves. Like, whoa, wait a minute here. No, it's not that bad. So learning that it's beautiful to see. They ease up with themselves, they ease up with others, and they get compassion begins to blossom. They're not as judgmental. They're not as absolute, so that they're more open to conversation and dialogue. Like this changes people profoundly. So it makes the world a better place.
Well, have you come across, with everyone that you work with, have you come across any advice or suggestions for those who don't think they have a problem, who don't even consider adjusting or quitting or anything? Because me, I don't drink that much. I only have a 6-pack or a 12-pack or whatever a day. And, I only drink when I'm stressed out. I only drink when, they're obviously not in that place yet. So have you come across anything in your business, in your therapy, that helps open up this suggestion for people that don't even recognize that we're talking about them?
Usually it comes through a family member. I'm working with someone, and then they'll tell two friends, I got on naltrexone. I'm still drinking, but I don't drink nearly as much as I used to. Then it usually becomes a girlfriend thing. Like when, women go and have a girls' night out or a weekend away, and then one of my clients will go and take their naltrexone with them and their little package of amino acids, and they're going like, what are you doing? And we notice you're not drinking as much. Like, what's up with that? And I did this thing and it's really been great. And so it kind of it's catchy once others see them. But if you're going to assess yourself, the golden rule is no more than 4 or more a day or 4 or more drinks on any given occasion. And you should not drink more than 3 days a week, and you should not drink more than 2. So if you do all the math, that means 6 to 8 drinks a week. If you're exceeding that week after week after week after week, that's excessive drinking, because your liver cannot keep up with that. And you might be young and beautiful and have this amazing liver today, but fast forward to 50, 60, get into menopause, and all that's going to go to your belly or your hips or your thighs. You're going to start to have digestive issues because your digestive juices, your hydrochloric acid reduces, your microbiota are at risk, and your muscles going away because you're not eating enough. It'll catch up to you. Alcohol, drinking excessive alcohol, even if you're over drinking, will catch up to you at some point. And I would like people to self-assess, and if they know they don't have to quit, but they could moderate. I have a lot of people, that's why I think I get people in their 40s, because they go, I heard this and I'm thinking, right? So that they don't go into their 50s and 60s and 70s and die early, And if you know you don't have to quit, I think there's all the incentive in the world to learn how to moderate.
I was just thinking, for those of us who know someone who doesn't think they have a problem, and if there were ways to open that dialogue without judging, without blaming, without, all of that. And I guess you've given us
through that nutritional conversation.
Yeah.
If you start at like, how are you feeling? You seem a little irritable, or you're dragging, or did you eat your breakfast today? Or just start it with like, how have you eaten today? And I have a client who gets up every morning, has 5 cups of coffee and doesn't eat till 3 o'clock, and then you'll have a banana. Well, excuse me, you're 49 years old, you're a man, you're a very busy man doing manly things all day, and you're not going to be manly for much longer if that's how you're living. So getting that person to change behavioral habits and eat breakfast and all that, right? So it started with that conversation. Typically, there'll be the wife, the spouse, or a sister or a friend who will refer someone to me. And we're concerned about this. We don't know, and then they don't want to quit. So then they say, you don't have to go see Michele. You don't have to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually not one thing, is it? If they have a drinking problem, they probably don't eat right. And if they don't eat right, they probably don't exercise well. If they don't do that, they probably don't sleep well. So I get you.
It would probably be the same for Tracey. Like if someone comes to her and they have inflammation and they can't sleep and they have acne, and she's like, well, just eat the carnivore diet. And they're like, it's too hard, and they don't do it. It's probably the same thing, Michele, it's the same thing. Like even for me with menopause, like if you want to get rid of the night sweats and the hot flashes and the mood swings, like XYZ. And if they're not willing to do XYZ, you can only coach someone who's willing, right?
Yes.
Right.
But the beauty of yours, Michele, is you're not asking them to quit and never have another drink. It's teaching them a different way of life. Reset.
And it's a slow reduction. I have people coming to me with the most I've seen is over 200 drinks a week. And over the course of 6 months, we can reduce them down to 0, right?
I can't even imagine.
No, right?
How would you
200 drinks?
You just start in the morning and you keep going, or you catch up on the weekends. It's a lot.
I know.
And you walk around. And the other thing is tolerance gets really high at that level. So what would kill the rest of us doesn't even make them look or feel drunk.
Yeah.
So,
but they will, like you said, like in your 40s and your 50s, that's a completely different story. That liver is done early, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's what's scary. So I've had people come in at 80 drinks a week, 75. Right now it's typically between 35 and 50 drinks a week. Most people I see. Wow. Yeah. People, because of tolerance, the volume goes way up. So I really advocate for low frequency, low volume drinking, the two together. So if you're at 80, you're not going to take a day off ever. You're going to go into withdrawal. So I just start stepping down with naltrexone and behavior and amino acids till they're at 2 or 3 and drinks per day, which is still 3 times 7, right?
Yeah, 21,
yeah. So they're still double digits. But once you get there, then you can take a day off because you won't go into withdrawal at 2 or 3 drinks a day. You'll be okay. It's not dangerous because I don't want anyone having withdrawal. So that's the one caution. You don't do all of this all at once yesterday. It's a gradual step down process.
It's like everything.
Yeah. And that's not practiced in regular treatment either. It's like, come in, we're going to give you some strong medications to so that you don't have a seizure. And, we're going to give you something to reduce your blood pressure. And then you're going to spend, 2 weeks in detox so that we can get you on other medications for when you get to go into the actual treatment facility for 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so much healthier than like, gee,
Oh,
Yeah, you can stay home,
Right.
you can go to work, you can take this anywhere you want to travel. I mean,
it's so
and you
amazing.
can do it discreetly, you can do it privately. No, I have an optional group, but you don't have to go to, if you want to remain private. That was the other thing I disagreed with in treatment. Everybody had to go to group, and not everybody wanted to go to group. And so
Right.
people are individuals. So I
Yeah.
offer a group if they want one, but they don't have to go to it. It's just
Mm.
purely if they want to. So
So
you have to be
amazing.
flexible.
Yeah, that is.
It's so amazing.
So, yeah, so it's a neat thing,
Oh.
and I hope more people start practicing this way. I know of a few people who sort of do it kind of like I'm doing, but not exactly. So
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to take off. This is absolutely fantastic.
I hope
Why
so.
would anybody not want to do this
Yeah.
if they
If I were
struggle with
struggling,
drinking, right?
this would be doable, right? If
Yeah.
I were struggling
Yeah.
to, in my mind, I'm thinking this is far more doable. And
Yeah.
I know after working with hundreds of people, it's far more doable, far more
Yeah.
compassionate, far more forgiving, far more understanding. Like we're being humans together. We're not, you
Yeah.
do this or else.
Yeah. That blame, oh, I'm so wrong. I'm bad. I did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I had a drink. Shame on me.
Yeah.
No, man.
but
That's,
it's
yeah,
also
I love
behavior.
this.
Like it's going
Right?
to take you into the future. Like this isn't a, you know, go into detox and don't drink, and then once they have another one or whatever, then they're back on the road of being
Yes.
Yeah.
alcoholic. This
Yeah.
is
Now you're a failure
behavioral.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Black
life.
and white thinking leads to
Yeah.
black and white thinking. It's all or
Right.
nothing. So then if I'm at nothing
Yeah.
and then I have one, then it's all. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's just a pendulum. And this the way that I work with people, it's not that way.
No,
Not that
everything
way.
is gray. Life is gray. You got it right. There's
Yeah.
that black and white just makes things too hard.
And
I think.
sometimes I show up differently. Like I'll wake up some mornings, if it's dark out and cold and snowy and 30 below. Like I'm not going to be a 75-watt bulb that day. I might be lucky to hit a warm 50, right? So sometimes my personal best is not as good as other days when I'm bright and wide and bushy tailed and it's,
Yeah.
75 degrees outside and it's beautiful and I'm happy and the dog's good. And, then I'm going to be a lot more enthusiastic, but we all vary that way depending on whatever.
Yes.
But I find I use amino acid therapy myself, and I find that I show up more consistently at a better level of brain function, which gives me the capacity to work with people and do all the things that we do when we're coaches that are around the hours that we coach. So it has changed my life personally with amino acids. I have ADHD, but not with amino acids. My house is more organized and I don't
Wow.
flit from one thing to another. And I get a lot more done during the day. So it's
So
important.
interesting.
That's good news.
Yeah.
That is right. the amino acid purchases are going to be going way up. Everybody buy
Yeah.
stock.
Make sure that you get a good brand.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's super safe. It's been around for 220 years. Two French guys found the first amino acid.
Oh,
And it's
that's
gone
something.
forward from there. And so now we have hundreds that we know what they do and how they behave in the body. And they're really safe because nature recognizes food. And this is concentrated protein. That's what it is.
Wow.
I just want to repeat how wonderful it is having you on here and giving an alternative to that all or nothing argument.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our audience, I can't wait to hear back from our audience and find out what their thoughts are about this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
And if they have any questions, you're going to send them a link, I think,
Yep.
if they need to talk to me or send me an email or whatever. I'm
Yep.
open to that. And so I think the more people who understand that this is another option, I think the healthier we can all be. It's that black and whiteness that I think stops people from getting help and also puts people in denial. Like, I don't have a problem. I'm fine, even though I'm drinking way more than I should be. But it's that punitive nature, that secrecy, that shame, that guilt that stops people from getting help. We have to overcome that.
Yeah.
We have to overcome that. We have to give people human alternatives. Because if it were me, if I could go back in time to all my clients prior to my amino acid certification, I would do things so differently.
Mm.
And the revolving door would be over. It would be over.
Yeah. Right.
It's really important.
I agree.
So Michele, thank you for being here. And
Thank you for having me.
opening up such an important conversation. Like, I love that your message brought hope, especially for women in midlife who may feel like they've lost control in one area or another. So you reminded us that change doesn't have to be extreme and all or nothing is out the door. So
Yes.
small steps backed by confidence and science, correct?
Yes.
Thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you for
Thanks,
being
Cynthia.
here.
Yep. You took the words right out of my mouth, Cynthia. So yes, thank you. I absolutely love that. I love that we don't have to do the all or nothing mindset. Sets you up for failure. Just the absolute wrong thing to do. Right. So love it, love it, love it. Good job. I love what you're doing. So
Thank you.
spread the word with that for sure.
Absolutely.
So Michele, please just take a minute once again to give out your information, how people can reach you, get in contact with you. And then I know you already said it once, but we better share it again. Share that one more time.
There will be a link in the show notes, I think, description to get a free 3-step guide to that outlines like the pillars of the program and gives you some tips and tricks to look at. Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn at Michele with 1L, D, Perron, comma, PhD, because there are 57 others. So you want to make sure you get me. And then you can also reach me on my website, which is www.Dr. Michele Perron. That's DRMICHELE 1L and PERRON. I know your Canadian audience. My name is really common in Canada, but in the US, everybody's a 2L Michele and they don't know how to spell Perron. So
that's awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And as always, you'll find our individual contact information along with Michele's, of course, in the show notes. Please, please, please share this episode with anyone who may need it, whether they realize it or not. They might have that aha moment once they're listening, right? Like, subscribe, and let us know if there are any other topics you'd love us to cover in future episodes. And until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Happy Healthy Her podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with anyone you think would benefit from the topics we're discussing. We'd love to hear from you. DM us with your thoughts, comments, or ideas for future episodes. And don't forget to check out the links in our bio if you'd like to connect with any of us or learn more about what we do. Until next time, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be happy, and be healthy.